Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of our LocalU webinars. I am joined myself, Joy Hawkins, owner of Sterling Sky and LocalU, and beside me here is Tommy Mello. For those of you who don't know who Tommy is, he is the owner of A1 Garage, which is hopefully this number is still accurate, $200 million garage door company. Is that the current
Yeah,
number?
yeah, that's what we're shooting for. A lot of acquisitions in motion.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. As someone that works with a lot of home service companies, a lot of them can't seem to get past the few employee stage. So, for those that don't know you, can you tell us a bit about like how in the world you got to a $200 million home service company? Realize it's probably a long story, but
I'll make it quick. So, born and raised in Detroit. Thank you for letting me be here, by the way. Joy is like my secret weapon. So, um, I would say, I realized where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a business owner. I realized there was going to be a lot of sacrifice, and I played the long game. I reinvested in the company, a delayed gratification. I didn't buy a lot of, Harleys and really nice cars. I made it a point that I wanted to be the best of my garage door owner out there, and made a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm not afraid. I make calculated risks, and I fall a lot, but I get back up. And I surrounded myself with a lot of the right people. I learned about manuals, standard operating procedures, CRMs, marketing, sales, and sales are not a bad word. In fact, I know you go to church, and definitely a believer. Uh, I was sitting in church, I don't know, less than a decade ago, and I realized as I'm pulling a bunch of money out of my wallet that the pastor is the best salesman in the church because he's got to raise money for the congregation. And I said, if the church could talk about it and businesses talk about it, we're allowed to talk about it. But recently, in the last couple of years, I realized that my dream's got to be big enough to fit everybody's dream inside. So we've got an equity incentive program. We do a lot of bonuses. We go on a lot of trips. We do the Pinnacle Club. We went on a picnic. We just went skydiving with a lot of the people, my coworkers. And I realized that you got to find people that want to win, that want to have their best life, that want to own a house, that want to put their kids in private school if they choose to. They want to own multiple houses. So we really worked hard to make sure everybody's winning in the company. And I think just the culture, it used to be a 4-letter word at A1 Garage Service, but the culture is really, and I know a lot of people are like, man, you don't understand. Like, no one works as hard as me and I make all the sacrifice, but that was me over a decade ago. And now I'm like, I put them first and my coworkers got to win. And all my job is to do inspire them, to show them how they could get what they want out of life. If they, you want to be a better father or a better mother, hang out with 10 great moms or 5 great moms and hang out with 5 great dads. So it's been through trial and error, and just I'd say the number one secret is networking and going and visiting shops that are bigger and better than me, and then learning and implementing.
yeah, no, that's awesome. So, for those of you that don't know, Tommy just came out with a book called Elevate. So, this book is one that I actually just went and bought this morning. So, I'm excited to read it. And I bought one for our VPs here as well. But one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting that stood out to me, you have a quote on your page here that talked about how you had employees that didn't want to work hard years and years ago, and they didn't really care about their jobs, and you had to work like 14-hour days to keep your business afloat, and then you kind of came to the conclusion that you were attracting the employees that you deserve. And obviously your book's going to go on about how to fix that. And for people that haven't heard about your book or what's in there, can you give us like a few kind of tips from there on like how you made that transition?
Well, I got the phone call about this thing called the coronavirus, and I didn't really think it was much when it first, I think it was all over the news, but people weren't really sure until it got worse. And it was crazy because outside of my door, there was employees lined up. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, I was kind of worried. And the first guy walked in and said, can you cut my pay in half? And I'm not looking for you to ever give it back. My wife's got a great job. I just want to make sure this company and the family does well. And then another
Wow.
person came in and they said, I want to give all my sick time to people who need it. And this just kept going on. And for weeks, I just had people volunteering to just help. And, there's a book called a compound effect, where he sits down and he writes down 100 things he wants in the perfect woman. And I talk about this story a lot. And then he looks at this list of what he's looking for, and he goes, I can never get a woman like this. So he wrote down 100 things he would need to become to be worthy of a woman like that. So when I read that book, I didn't do the same exercise. I wrote down 30 things that I would need to become to get the people I want to represent me, that would actually give the care and treatment and create raving fans out in their garage. And it just was a mindset shift. It was abundance. It was, we're able to give. And I don't pride myself on giving the cheapest price. I give the same day service with the best quality, with the best warranty, with a drug tested background checked technician, with a wrap vehicle, with the best tools. And, we're going to treat you. I said, we treat everybody like mom. My mom worked 3 jobs to save our house in Michigan, and she hustled. And my mom is one of my favorite people. I love her so much. And I tell people that story, and I say, listen, if you were my mother, here's what I'd be telling you. And we really like to smile a lot and just tell our stories of why we're here. Why did we choose A1? Why should you even do business with us?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So maybe you kind of already answered this question, because obviously, with my background being marketing, I want to pick your brain on marketing questions. But like, one of the things we often ask our clients is like, what is your unique selling proposition? Like, what makes you better than all the other garage door companies out there? And a lot of times they'll respond with things like, oh, we have great customer service. I'm like, anybody
Or
can
we're the
learn that.
best
Like,
at this.
yeah,
We're the best at
yeah,
this. Well,
yeah. So what's
I
your
could
answer to
tell.
that? Why A1
Well,
Garage?
our call. So there's a lot of great books on this, but if you look at your USP, it's really built upon what happened in the past. We don't have a lot of warranty calls. We show up on time. We're available 24/7, nights and weekends. If I'm not at work and all of our VPs and directors are not here, you're still going to get service on a Sunday. Um, but really, the big thing is we offer you coffee on the way. We're going to smile. We're going to fix your problem the first time. You in this industry, you could get nickel and dimed every 4 months with a broken garage. We're going to evaluate the whole system and give you options. We believe if we don't give you options, we're giving you ultimatums. And I think it's important to understand that what's important for you. And that's one of the first things. How long are you staying in the home? Is insulation important for you? You got an office in the garage, or the kids are out here a lot playing games. What's important to you? Is it curb appeal? But I'm very excited to say that Remodel Magazine, for the 6th year in a row, came out and said this year garage doors were worth 102.7% ROI. So you make money when you buy a garage more than your kitchens or bathrooms. So I just love my industry. When I watch a James Bond movie, I'm like looking at the background of the garage doors, and we drive through neighborhoods. I'm just a weirdo like that, but most of the technicians are as well. And I just think we're really there to create an experience and show you we're good people, because I want a lifetime customer. We know you're going to move probably in the next 5 years. We want to be your garage door company. We want to be the people you call, you trust, and you enjoy when we come out there.
Okay. Yeah. So like marketing, we're going to shift to marketing questions, but like I want to let people know they're watching this. If you have a question for Tommy, please put it in the comments, because at the end we are going to go through questions from our audience. So it's a great opportunity to kind of make sure you get a chance to hear his answers. But we want to talk about worst marketing ideas first. Like I always find it fun to learn about people's successes by learning about their failures, like what not to do. So let's talk about some of the like worst marketing mistakes you've ever made. What was it that you did? Why did you think it was a good idea? And then like what was the outcome?
Worst mistake I've ever made was 15 years ago. I got into Valpak, and they gave me a call tracking number that I didn't own for attribution. They wanted to be able to tell me how I was doing. Well, this is just as the yellow pages were dying. Google was not really what it is today. And so I called Money Mailer. I said, what else is like? There used to be like Savvy Shopper, and there's still Clipper and all these different magazines and mailers. So there used to be another one called Super Coops. So I called Super Coops and Money Mailer, and I said, my ad's working really well for Valpak. Just do something similar. So they created their own artwork. But what I didn't know is they took the same phone number off of Valpak. And
Mhm.
so the gal that was working at Valpak calls me 3 months later. She said, the entire corporation of Valpak is studying garage doors in your company. We've never seen so many calls. Before you knew it, garage doors was sold out in every Valpak I was in across, So I've learned very quickly, own your phone numbers and don't give them to anybody. Like you guys have attribution for us, and I want to know you're doing your job, but I also don't have the same phone numbers for attribution to do a case study and sell another 1,000 garage door companies. So I think really having call tracking numbers that you own and knowing where the real calls are coming from to where you're not asking on the phone, oh, you got us from a mailer? Oh, which one? I think it was the blue one. And then we put it for Valpak, so we didn't have real attribution. So that's a kind of a two-phase. Have attribution within a CRM, and we use Service Titan. And then the other one is just don't let the companies own your tracking numbers. It's
Mm.
kind of like don't let them own your PPC account, because if they do, don't let them own your GMBs. I don't know, it's called something else now. Don't let them own anything, because then they got you. What I find too with SEO is a lot of these companies, they've got like a link farm. They might pay to play. They might write articles and give it to really good websites. And then the day you stop using them, it all goes away. All
Mhm.
those links, they just delete them. They get them removed. And it's just, they might have a, what do they call that? Where they own a bunch of domains and used to be,
PBNs.
yeah, PBN. And then all
Yep.
of a sudden, all of them go away.
Yep. Or Google, catches the PBN and then takes it down. That's always fun too.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you get you look at what happened like JC Penney's, and I doubt they knew that they were even doing it, but they got delisted basically, and it could kill a company. And now I would
yeah.
just say, play the long game with your marketing.
And we're going to get into some specifics. Like I definitely want to, pick your brain on specific types of market. Like LSA is a hot topic in your industry. We've got some interesting stuff going on there. But first, before I kind of get into that, I want to know, like, out of all the different marketing things, because obviously you do more than just SEO, but like out of all the marketing that you do for A1 Garage, what would you say are like the best ideas you've ever made and that are pivotal, like for, just driving the types of leads that you need to keep these great people employed? Um, and then, kind of as a side note to that question, obviously we know Google is key, but like there's always this concern of putting too many eggs in Google's basket. What if they killed off the local pack? What if they get rid of local service ads? Like, we've seen shifts that have been made on Google's end. And how, as a business owner, do you make sure you're not putting too much of your trust in, Google's hands?
Well, it's a tough question. I don't think everything's going to change at once, because PPC is completely separated from LSA, which is completely separated from their GMB, which is completely different than organic. They're all on different algorithms and they all work a little differently. So I do think Google is key, and I focus on those four are probably the most important. Uh, but I also think that relationships, going after realtors and the gifts that keep giving, handyman, painters, people that are going to use your service over and over again. When you're smaller, it's easier to meet the people and network. As you get bigger, you start using lead sources. There's Angie's List, Home Advisor. Um, there's a lot of them I've used. Now, I don't necessarily like those as much as I used to, because it's kind of speed to lead. Um, and they're getting like 5 quotes at once calling in. But I think Google is definitely the most important. And I still think regular old SEO is very, very important. A lot of people think it's dying because you don't show up first on the page. But this is where people they do the research. They look at your website, they look at it, and they say, hey, could I find a sample here? What is this company all about? Do they got good pictures? It doesn't need to be over the top, like crazy, but just look professional. Uh, but I do a lot of things with like we're still involved with a lot of BNI groups on a local level. You go after the stuff on the BBB. The Torch Award still means something, which we haven't won yet, but we're really there's so many other marketing avenues. We do a lot of mailers, but we really been really big into selling service agreements. We're doing very well because it's a repeat customer that we build a fence around the customer. That you might not need a garage door next year. You might not need one 3 years from now, but eventually you're going to say it's time to replace it. So we're playing the long game.
Hmm. That's smart. Yeah. And so, talking about Google specifically, obviously, like for those that aren't aware of the garage door industry or know it really well, it is like one of the most spammed industries on Google. So when we're talking about like local pack listings. There is just a multitude of fake listings, lead gen listings, fake reviews. Like there's a lot. And I want to kind of unpack these individually. But let's talk about reviews first, because I feel like reviews is one of the biggest problems in your space. There is just so many fake reviews. And I've heard some business owners like say, like, how in the world do you compete when your competitor might be buying like 500 fake reviews a month and you have to somehow compete with that without sinking to their level? What's your answer to that?
Well, you should incentivize your employees to get reviews. And the one thing I say is, you know how many guys that built a business within a business that people call and they say, just read your Yelp or your Google reviews and we want this technician to come out. And there's a picture in the review of the technician in front of his truck. It kind of, you can't fake that stuff. I think the quality of review, you have somebody tell the whole story. I called A1 out. Eric showed up. He went over this. Here's a picture of him working. You try to have them elaborate in the review and you say, listen, part of my scorecard is how happy I make customers. I'm here to give you a 5 out of 5 service. And I really, if I fall less than a 5, I need you to let me know because my livelihood, my family, these are my kids. Everything's riding on me making sure that you're happy. So let me know ahead of time. And if you wouldn't mind, at the end of this, I'm going to make sure that I let my boss know how we're doing. If you wouldn't mind, just snap a picture of me working on the door. I think pictures are important. But we have not done as great a job. We monitor it, but we used to use, Bird Eye. And then now we're using Marketing Pro. But attribution is a tough thing for reviews because I never found something that's perfect to know what reviews, but it's on our scorecard. That's one of the things that we run so many jobs because we do TV, radio, billboards. And what TV, radio, and billboards do is, and all my vehicles that are wrapped is I'm looking for people that are doing branded searches for my company. So they're searching for A1 garage door service. 100% booking rate almost. They're going to wait a little bit longer because they want us to be the person. They're not going to question us when we go there because they like us and they just believe in our brand. And so I think Google, TV, radio, billboards will spike your branded searches. And because I get so many jobs in every market we're in, I don't need to go and say every single job needs a review. But I will say when you're smaller, that's the way to combat it. A long review with pictures in it, and you can't tell the customer to put keywords, but if you ask for a garage door opener, would you mind mentioning that you put this model, LiftMasters, a Chamberlain model in here and what you like about it? And I like the fact that I could open and close it with the MyQ anywhere I'm at in the world. I like the fact that it alerts me and I can see the Amazon guy coming and going and leaving packages in the garage. That stuff means a lot. User-generated content's a big deal.
It is. And just to put in context, we did a study on photos and reviews and found like if you have a photo with your review, it stays at the top like way longer. Like it's the first review that Google highlights. So this can be either a blessing or a curse. Like if it's a bad picture, then you could potentially have it there for quite a long time, which I've definitely seen on businesses. So that's a tip to write down if you're listening. Definitely ask for photos with reviews and also try to get as much detail as you can and incentivize employees. Now, on that note, I was going to say with employees incentivizing, I've heard a lot of different strategies on like how to do that, like how much to give, how to do it. How do you guys do that there? Like, do you do it as like a rally or a bonus, or what do you do there?
In certain markets, when we know we need reviews, let's just say we're newer in that market, we'll actually give a dollar amount per review. But what I find is making customers happy. I shouldn't pay you extra. I shouldn't pay you extra for showing up on time. As part of your scorecard, we have 5 major things on our scorecard. And customer satisfaction is the most important. We look at sales. We look at warranty rate. We look at did you use financing? Because I think I always say, did you want to use your money today or did you want to use ours? We know if people use financing, they tend to spend more money. I mean, that's why you see every furniture store saying couches starting as low as, this amount, don't pay anything till 2026. Same thing for when you look at Mercedes or whatever kind of car you're buying. We're just taking things from other industries and applying them to garage doors. But I think having them part of the scorecard where they know you're measuring it
Hmm.
and they know it's a way to get promoted within the company is that's one of the things you're never going to get promoted if you don't have a good score on your reviews. So, and we go over them each week, and there's 2
Wow.
one-on-ones per month.
All right. That's actually something I can't say I've heard before. I've heard a lot of people say that they offer incentives. We have even some realtors that were offering pretty large incentives, like $100 a review. Like it was like crazy, the amount of money that they were pouring out. But I can't say I've ever heard anybody say that they were like including it as part of like the evaluation of that employee. So that's really good tip. Um, Talking about local service ads. So when these first came out, I know heard mixed results on these. Like some people love them, some people hate them. We've heard from people that like they used to be really good and now their quality has declined a lot. Where are you guys seeing on the local service ads? Like, is it just as lucrative as when Google first launched it, or is it more lucrative, or what are you seeing on that?
You know, Jim, you know who Jim is, Jim Leslie. We looked a lot into it, and we found a study that 40% of people on LSA have never got a phone call. And what LSA really looks at, and one of the things to spike the LSA right now is to make sure you open up your chat and you're responding right away. The biggest factor for LSA quality is answering the phone right away, is it's not letting the phone ring and not getting, calling back later. And it's actually being active within the platform. So I think LSA is great, but somebody's infiltrated the system. And, I've talked to you quite a bit about this is, we saw in Houston, and we're not even in Houston yet, but a company we're partnering with, they got 53 reviews on Thanksgiving. On LSA, it's supposed to be verified. They were verified reviews.
Yeah.
And the hard part is people say, well, how do you combat this? And I'm like, everybody gets caught. It's a matter of it's not a matter of if, it's when. And what I would say is focus on your core business, but I'm hoping that the cheaters will fall out. That there will always be somebody stealing cable. There will always be somebody trying to manipulate, the Google, LSA, or GMB stuff. There'll always be people buying stupid links. But overall, I feel like in a company like mine with 700 employees, it's not okay to take a chance ever, because so many people. If there's the average of two kids and a wife or a husband at home, you're feeding 2,800 people.
Mhm.
So I'll play the long game all day and just keep doing things right. I could prove that we're a real company. I could prove we have real locations. I own every vehicle. Everybody's a W-2. So I always know it could happen any day. Google will change the algorithm. Remember Panda and Penguin back in the day when it just changed everything?
Yeah, so with LSA, you might be happy to know this. I think they are actually starting to crack down on reviews. We've seen quite a few reports over the last few days of, especially in the garage door space, people losing like 80% of the reviews. So that could be good news for you guys, hopefully, like that Google is actually starting to crack down on that, because I've seen exactly what you're referring to, like businesses getting reviews at 3 a.m. on Christmas Day, and it's like really, who's going and reviewing their business at that time of day? And yeah, it makes no sense at all. So I agree. I think Google will eventually catch up to these people. Hopefully, it'll be a good thing. Um, Talking more on the SEO side with like link building, that's a question I know that we get a lot from business owners. Like link building is rough. Like it is just not easy to do properly, and it's hard. It's expensive. How do you feel currently about like link building efforts, and do you care about it as much as you used to? Is it kind of a similar strategy to what you used to pay for in the past?
So I brought back a guy that used to work with me who he's very, very good at working on like Haro, help
Mm,
a reporter out. He's good at finding like these people that need content. I'm a contributor. I'm on YEC Young Entrepreneur Council. I think I'm grandfathered in, even though I just hit 40. But it's they get really great links on Huffington Post and Forbes. I'm a contributor of Inc. We put out 4 articles a month on Inc.com, and there's do follow versus follow and all that stuff. I don't really care. And then here's a little trick that I don't really share a lot, but I think because you asked me to do this, I feel like I want to give back. Um, if you've got a vendor, and you probably have hundreds of vendors, every person you do marketing with, every person that you buy parts from, maybe even some of your clientele, if they've got a website that does well, why don't you just leave them a testimonial of why you use them? Make a nice video and just say, put your bio there with a link to your website. And it doesn't need to be on the homepage, but it would help them out a lot. I mean, that's an easy way to get a lot of links. I mean, I even had my bank do it. And I gotta go through and do it again. But I think that's a great way to do it. It's an easy way. And then when you buy and endorse, if you're gonna give $500 to maybe one of your employees' kids for soccer, just say, listen, I'll do it if you guys would put a link. And because I have attribution, I could give, 5% of every lead that comes through that link
Hmm.
because we got schedule engine or that phone number. I could give it back and I could send them a report each week of what came in. They could even test it. So having the technology is a huge deal because I could go out and do a bunch of nonprofit and everything else and say it's a win-win. Wounded Warriors, we could say, listen, anybody that buys something through us, we'll give this amount to your charity. There's a lot of creative ways that I do it that are just systematic versus and then there's also software that goes out and it's always asking people through LinkedIn and other places. We got a great I got one today. Somebody's like, hey, I got a great article for your site. I just gave it over to my assistant to send to the guy that does our SEO. But putting together great articles with outbound links is great too. Just they got to be great, amazing articles. I think it's more quality over quantity now.
Yeah, for sure. And that's you talked about video testimonials. Video is something that I feel like a lot of businesses are starting to do more of. I've seen some businesses that are starting to really put a lot of efforts into things like TikTok and YouTube and stuff. Have you guys done any of that? Like, are you focusing more on video currently than in the past, or is it on your roadmap?
So I'm doing a ton on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and some on Twitter for my personal brand.
Hmm.
And it's something to where we've not gotten great. So what I'm trying to create right now is some software that just aggregates everything and puts it into a Hootsuite, right? There's a million tools like Hootsuite, but basically I'm working on a scorecard that if you do this, I'll give you an extra salary per week. That if you do this many video testimonials, you talk to this many people, you could just have a selfie of you recruiting a guy at a restaurant, but all that stuff. And I don't need every single person in the company to do it. I just need like the people that are really outgoing, that interview well, that are excited, that smile a lot. So I just get 50 of them and I pay them $250 a week. Sounds like a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, if I make sure they've got a checklist and they're hitting all these things, and then I'll just have somebody editing in the background and it'll be amazing. But it wasn't at the top of my list. I'll say that.
Hmm.
It does amazing things, but you ever watch those landscape videos where it just shows the guy mowing the lawn two ways and they got like a million views?
It's
Like
yeah.
we want to do that with garage doors, like before and afters, where we put it together where it's like the motion with time lapse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
video is tricky because it's like, how do you attribute sales to it, right? Like I was talking to a lawyer the other day who's like got a crazy YouTube channel. He's got like 16,000 subscribers, which is a lot for a lawyer. And he said like he'll get people calling him all over the country. Obviously, he can't help them. So I know that's one of the tricky things with video. Like your audience is so broad, and like, have you guys actually seen like actual revenue that you can tie to some of your videos that you've been doing?
When I think more now about my content on videos, um, more about recruiting A+ players.
Hmm.
I kind of switched it because an A player will run one A+ player will run circles around four B players, literally circles. You could add all four of them together. So I'm more interested in getting an A+ player that's going to get several reviews at each job. They'll go the extra mile. They want to. They. It's interesting because where we were at a few years ago compared to when a guy graduates from our program now, like every class gets better. Like they get better training. So my marketing is so focused on finding the right people that I get to work with more than the clients, even because a great person, they're out advertising, they're out talking to people, they're handing cards out at gas stations, they're not calling in a lot. Like, I don't think people understand that marketing is also getting the right people on board.
Yeah, 100%. That's such a good point. This is things I need to write down. So, speaking of like trends and stuff, AI is obviously, very, very much a buzzword right now. I'm sure you've probably seen a million videos on TikTok about it. are you guys using AI in your business? Like, do you think it's going to change anything for you or for people in the home service space, like for your industry or anything like that?
So for content, I would say it's a great starting point to run it through ChatGPT. We run things through articles to make sure there's keyword density. There's stuff you've got with Jarvis, which is now called uh, I forget what there's SEM Rush. We use all these tools just to see if it's quality content. Um, and then we're working with a messenger on the website to there's a lot of things, but I don't anticipate a huge shift. I think if anything, I want more people booking online, and I want
Hmm.
more chats going live to get them to the right person, like a really smart IVR that's built on a lot of knowledge. But AI takes time to learn to get it customized. But yeah, I think it's going to make a big difference. But I don't think I'm going to replace any employees. I'll just have to hire less. We'll get way more economies of scale with AI. But I'm not
Yeah.
looking. So many people are like, you could run a whole business off of AI, and maybe e-commerce. But for me, I still go back to at the Warren Buffett summit recently, he talked about AI is great. It's going to do a lot of cool things, but it's not going to change great human beings. It's not going to change a lot of the stuff we normally do. It'll make you more efficient, but a lot of people are looking for that magic pill of just AI is going to be, and it might be in 10 years, but I don't think the early adopters will be more successful with it. But I also don't believe you should be running your whole business off of AI.
No, I gotta tell you, some of the Facebook groups I'm in, people seem to think that. But it's funny that you mentioned Warren Buffett. My husband was literally at that conference, and he's probably like super excited in the background right now. They quote him a lot. Definitely a very wise man for sure. Um, Now, obviously, I know I'm going to shift here to like kind of a different topic because I do want to get to the audience questions. So we're coming to that pretty soon. But acquisitions, we know you've been super busy with acquisitions lately, and I'd love to get some thoughts on like, when should you start acquiring businesses? At what stage? We know Google doesn't do a great job of understanding acquisitions. The fact that you're taking over this business and you now have the rights to their listing, like they need to get there, but they're not there yet where they actually understand how that all works. So what are your thoughts on that topic, and what advice would you give out to like the home service businesses that are listening right now?
So integrate. Well, first of all, acquisitions are very, very difficult. You're taking two different cultures. They're used to being paid differently, different tools, different parts, different truck setups. Um, where we failed is we're not really good at commercial. We're not really good at new construction. So when we buy those kind of taper off to zero over time. So understanding who your avatar is, I think it's a great opportunity. 2,000 baby boomers retiring every day. 12% of those own businesses. I think there's going to be a huge shift of wealth to the people that know how to acquire well. But I'd say own your market. First of all, don't acquire. I like bolt-ons in your same market more than I like going out to a whole different state because you can't get there very quick. So your first acquisition, try to keep it within an hour's drive of you. Um, Another thing I love, this is the most important thing for me, is I don't look at it acquisitions. I look at it for two things: employees and leads. I don't care what your balance sheet and income statement. I don't care what your cash flow statement. I don't care about that because I'm changing the average ticket. I'm changing the conversion rate. I'm changing the booking rate, and I'm changing the cost per lead. I love businesses that have been around 30 years. They're like, we don't believe in Google. And they get 30, 40 calls a day. And they're because they got stickers, they got repeat business, they're big in the community. Those are like perfect for me. They're ready to retire because I turned on, the Google machine, start going after reviews, start getting some video testimonials, start building. All of a sudden, they're up to 50, 60 leads a day. And they were running one guy with 10 calls a day, where the guy was like just pulling up, didn't get to know the customer. I fixed your main issue. If I get my brakes done, I want them to look at my calipers and my rotors, right? I want them to check out my tires. Most of these guys don't have enough time. They're like, boom, boom, there, it's working now. And then 2 months later, they're like, why didn't you look at everything? Because now this just broke. So I know that went off a little topic, but acquisitions could do great, but you got to grow organically. You got to grow your current markets. You can't just go and acquire, because then you got a bit of a Frankenstein, and you got to have an integration checklist. You got to make sure you're getting them on the same chart of accounts with the finance side. You got to make sure that the culture, they understand if someone's got better insurance, which is very rare for someone to have better insurance than we do, but a guy went and decided to buy everybody in their whole family's insurance 6 months before he did the deal with us. No, knowing he was going into the deal. So we said, we're going to give you that for the same 6 months, and we're going to buy out the rest of the year. So we're going to make it right, but you got to be on the same. And that's a hard one, but mostly we're adding value. We're adding a 401k, PTO, we're making it better, but just understand that you can't have a bunch of businesses working on different price books. And so we go through and we get them all on the service titan, and we input their whole, there's so many things that goes on in an integration with when you buy a company. And then you go after, are they on accrual accounting? Are they on cash accounting? You look at different things. Are they being paid weekly or biweekly? You know, are they paying for their gas? Are they a 1099 or a W-2? You look at all these different things that you got to account for. Some people are responsible for their own trucks. Some people got to bring them back every night. Some people have installers doing technician work, and some people separate those. And it goes on and on and on. So just because it's a great opportunity and a great deal doesn't mean it's always right. And it's really, and we've learned the hard way, but overall, every one of our acquisitions has been profitable.
That's killer. And something you said that's interesting. I've talked to a lot of people about acquisitions, right? A lot of people look at it straight as like buying customers. Like they see it as like a good way to get customers without paying for marketing. And you said employees are one of the things that you look at, which is something I don't feel like I hear a lot. It's nice, resonated well with me. And obviously employees are like, you keep coming back to that. And that is like mainly the topic of your book, correct? Like that's what you kind of dive into in the book is just employees.
Well, everybody needs to win. Like when I have a vendor, you got to win. You got to feel like you're winning. Whether I'm buying garage door parts or getting SEO or GMB optimization, everybody needs to feel. The employees need to feel like they're winning. Everybody's got to feel when we buy or sell. Everybody needs to feel like that was good for them. Like it's not being one-sided. That so many people. Simon Sinek wrote The Infinite Game, and understanding that it's not a win or lose. It's just because I'm winning. I invite all my competitors into this shop, Garage Door Freedom and Vertical Track. They come here and they see everything we're doing. They take pictures. I give them all the answers. They're like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, we're raising the bar in the industry. Just because you're making money doesn't mean I don't. We're both allowed to win.
Yeah. No, it's true. Actually, we get that question sometimes in our industry as well, right? Like we share a lot of stuff, and I know sometimes people are afraid to give away their secrets, but we always encourage people to do that. I think it's smart, and it usually ends up returning itself. So Tommy's book we put up on the screen there. We'll dive more into that. Also, I want to mention your podcast because like people might not realize that you have that. So your podcast is the Home Service Experts. How often do you release episodes? Like who should listen to that?
It comes out once a week. We just got our millionth download about a week and a half ago. We talk about everything in the home service niche. Like you talk about accounting, we talk about hiring the right people, the CFO. We talk about getting the best brand because brand goes a lot with marketing. I've had Michael Gerber on there, the E-Myth. I try to find great businesses or authors or just people that can contribute. You've been on twice. So I think if you're
once.
Was it
you
once?
Only had me on once. Yeah. Yeah, we're overdue.
So we got to do another one. But really, I think if you want to know more about business, there's something for you. If you want to talk about org charts, if you want to figure out a way to get trucks at a better price, how to lower your EMOD score for your insurance and workers' comp. This podcast is really, and there's a summary. So all you got to do is search what you're looking for, and it'll give you all the podcasts on the Home Service Expert page. And then there's a Facebook group called the Home Service Expert. I think we're around 7,500 people. So if someone's got a question of, do you know anybody really good for the cameras in the vehicles? Someone always pops in and says, we work with an awesome company. We have debates on there. It's mostly about, we don't get into religion or politics. It's all home service.
Smart. Yeah. Well, networking, like you said, it's all about who you know, right? I couldn't agree more. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's a great podcast. As you know, I'm biased, obviously, I've been on it, but it's wonderful. And I've actually had quite a few clients that say they listen to your podcast, which is awesome. So next we're gonna try to get through some of the audience questions here. So keep those questions coming if you have questions for Tommy. Now I think some of the questions that are coming in may be more SEO related, so I don't know if you want me to take those. We can skip over them, but
Yeah.
I'll go to the first one from Devin here. So he wants to talk about spam and reporting competitors that are keyword stuffing their names on Google. What is your thoughts on that? Is it worth doing?
I found a lot of people, this is my honest feedback, take it for what it's worth. I find a lot of people spend so much time worrying about everybody else and trying to make themselves the best. You know, you could go report till you're blue or hire somebody like Joy's team. And it's important that you're doing it. But I'm only going to work on what I can control. And I can
Mm,
control the actions that come out of my company. So I think I'll let you answer the best way to do that. But in my opinion, my time, winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. And if there's spam, and so many people have tried to take me down. One guy got kicked out of the Precision franchise because of it, because he had an onion router. They were clicking on our PPC. They were leaving bad reviews. And I never wanted to sink to that level. Like, how am I going to compete with Black Hat? I don't want to.
yeah.
So my mentality has always been just continue to do it right and do what you can do on your end to make as many good things happen. And if you do that, usually you end up on top, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. We've taken kind of a backseat on reporting spam in certain cases. I definitely think like, with Garage Door, it's worthwhile to report fake listings still. There's a lot of lead gen listings out there. So we've seen like markets where like they've, crushed you guys and like we want to get rid of those. But keyword stuffing, probably not worth the effort, is my kind of current stance on it. It's a lot of work and it just ends up usually coming back, and couldn't agree more with Tommy. I think there's other things you can focus on that'll just be better there. Um, Amara wants to talk about like multi-location websites because obviously you guys got a lot of locations on A1 Garage, and just is there a strategy behind like organizing it? Um, Whether it should be like list your locations on your homepage, and what's your thoughts on that?
So since a1garage.com has so much domain authority, a lot of times we'll build a page preemptively on A1 and we'll hide that from the sitemap, and then we'll do a 3-1 redirect from that page to give their company some juice. I think that's a good strategy. Anytime it could be an A1. Now, I've got an uncontestable trademark as of 5 years ago, but unfortunately, A1 was a pretty popular name since the phone book, the Stone Ages. So
Mm-hmm.
certain markets that if they've been there 20, 30 years, I want their website, but it is very hard to do SEO on a million sites. So figuring that piece out. But what I'll try to do is buy companies in that market, small roll-ups, and do a 301 to theirs and use their brand. Because if I could get that link juice with a 301 all day long. Another
Yep.
quick thing you could do is you could find a lot of people look for phone numbers that have been out of business, but see if you could buy domains that are not in business and then use the archives, with the Wayback Machine, and see if you could try to rebuild what links the pages that were there, and then 301 to redirect that.
Yeah, we're doing some testing with that, so I'm hoping to actually have some stuff to share on that in the near future. So Claudia wants to actually just know where you grew up in Michigan.
Sterling Heights,
All right,
17 Mile and Orion.
easy question. Raymond wants to know, out of digital marketing specifically, which channels made the most success?
Digital marketing. Craigslist used to be great. Facebook Marketplace at one point was great, but these things, they come and go. I mean, obviously, if it was just Google, and a little bit of your time needs to go to Bing, but not a lot. If you focus on Google and Yelp, I think Yelp's important. I trust. A lot of people get upset with Yelp, but Yelp could be good for you. I think most of the time it's going to be Google. Social media is important, but it's it social media is better for visual. Like if you're doing Christmas lights, social media will kill it. You should be
Yeah.
on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, every group, every neighborhood post. But if you're doing garage doors, yes, there is some things to be said about the before and after. But most of my work comes from I can't get in or out of my garage. something's not working. The keypad stopped working. So
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Christmas lights. So one of our clients is, I know, listening because he has a question coming up here, does Christmas light installation, and we wanted a good photo for his site, and so I had my husband take one because he comes out and does our house every year. So he's got this, like, my husband's great at photography, so he got this really nice picture of our house with all the Christmas lights that we got them to install. And then some guy in a Facebook group stole it and was like using it and promoting his thing. I'm like, that's my house, and you don't have authority to use that picture. Take it down. It's really funny. So definitely those visuals can be really key. And even in your space, like we're seeing, for some of the pages and stuff that we're working on, like, colors are awesome. Like red garage doors look really awesome. Like, especially if you like pair it with a white house or a black house, or it's kind of cool. So I think visuals are becoming more important for sure, regardless of what medium you're using.
I think so. And then coming up with a SOP, I'll spend a year coming up with a plan before I just deploy and say, let's just, I don't mind failing, but I want there to be very clear objectives before we start just tiptoe into something, because I've seen so many things where I'm not just planned enough and I don't have a data integrity team to make sure it's being done right. And the structure I'm going to create is going to be massive it's going to explode again. And right now I don't believe in social media near what I believe in Google, but it's more because I haven't given it the effort we give Google. I mean, I know, look, if Valpak still works, shoot, in Albuquerque, the Yellow Book still works. So I think everything works to a certain extent. It's don't just spray and pray, have a plan, test things out, and just be consistent.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, I'm going to put Kyle Tobin's question next. So he wants to know, how can he effectively communicate the unique value and benefits of his premium price lawn care to customers who ultimately perceive all services as being the same?
So there's a book called Competitive Advantage that you should read. I always say this: if you're going to market to the wrong people, I don't think Target is going after Walmart's customers. They're just not. I think you've got to understand, when you market to the wrong neighborhoods of people that could get it done for cheaper versus somebody that, when I had my landscape company, I said, and you guys might get offended by some of the stuff, but I said, I speak English as a first language. I communicate very, very well. You could text me. Back then, they didn't probably have text, but maybe, yeah, you might have. But I say, number one, I find out I do the pain funnel. What annoys you right now about your landscapers? Well, they come during the week when I'm going for work, and I always get stuff all over the cars. What if we came on a Saturday? What time works for you? What's important to you? Is the dead grass, this area here, is that important? Because there's a problem with your drip system or your sprinkler system. So until you could understand the art of sales, I took a landscape customer. It's called the Medical Center in Phoenix. They were paying $800 a month. I sold it for $25. But I need to market to the right people. And knowing your avatar is not everybody with a lawn. Knowing the right, you should be taking your list of your best clients, your top 10%, and studying what's the average income, what's their credit card score, what's their zip codes, and making sure you're top of mind there. What they say to do to real estate agents is pick the neighborhoods. You're the best. You're the most, you know more than anybody in that, and just own that neighborhood. Don't just go everywhere. Not everybody with a garage door is my client.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't have said that any better. Yeah. Not everybody is your client. Noted. Definitely couldn't agree more with that. Um, LSA, we've got quite a few questions around LSA. So I guess maybe we should expand on that a bit. LSA, obviously, we kind of talked about spam already, so I'll skip over that one. But just like, as far as how they do in different markets, do you find that certain markets outperform others, and do you just kind of live with it? Or is there anything that, outside of messaging, I think you said you want to enable messaging and that helps with your response rate and your lead volume will go up. Is there anything else you have to note about LSA in just different markets?
Well, I see a lot of people that live in the LSA and they're always saying not a lead, not a lead, not a lead. If I were Google, I would probably punish the people that aren't paying me. Now, of course, I want feedback and I want to become the best algorithm and search engine possible. But I think it's number one is having the right amount. Like, a lot of stuff changes, and this is why I work with people like Joy, because I look for people that know way more than me, and for different things. I don't want to be the expert. Now, I think it's important that you're well versed in everything you do and with marketing sales and your finances. I don't think you should trust somebody else to look at a balance sheet and not know what you're looking at and go take a loan out that you don't know what it is. But what I would say is LSA does very well, but I think GMB still competes with it. I think done right, both of them combined. Here's what I know for a fact is if you show up in the LSA, the top three, you show up in the PPC, and then you showed up in the sponsored GMB and then the GMBs, and I still call it the GMB. I know there's a different name, but I'm
Everybody
like,
does. Fine.
show up first organically, you're likely that if you're there 4 or 5 times, you're going to get picked.
Yep. That's it. And honestly, what you said, I'll just repeat it because people need to think about this. Disputing every lead in LSA, think about Google and what their end goal is. They want people that can connect with the leads so that they can bill for them. So just, yeah, definitely make a note of that. In regards to messaging, I have a question here from Carrie Hill, just around like if you have any thoughts between live chat versus SMS integrations. We've seen like a big surge with tools now having SMS integration. So we use one of these on Sterling Sky sites. We use Inferno, and when somebody like messages us on our site, I can respond to from this app, or any of my team can, and it just like sends them a text message, like a two-way conversation now between their phone and me, and they don't have to stay on the screen that they're on. So have you guys experimented with different versions of like live chat versus SMS? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think SMS is golden. Podium, there's all these different softwares. I would tell you that we are playing around with chat. We've never been great at chat because, quite frankly, our goal is to generate a booked call or a schedule engine. To book on the schedule engine, but it's something that I definitely am going to dig into. You know, I've got a lot of notes. Here's the great thing about something like this is when you get to call this teaching, call it learning, call it whatever you want, is when people ask questions and people are engaged and Joy's asking me questions and I'm giving answers. When you get to teach, you actually do better. So all I would say is if you guys have an opportunity to be on more of these, interview other people, go ahead and ask questions. I think you're going to find that you can grow. Like this is a really big opportunity for us is to, I think AI to SMS to having a great center to handle those calls. My only problem is, and I would hate it. And it probably is going to go this way that people are going to be texting pictures of everything and they're going to be expecting a quote over the phone, and there's no way without a technician's eyes on that. I can tell if your door is demolished and we need to replace it, but what's important to you, I hope it never goes to the fact that you don't get to meet the person and find out who you're buying from, that it's just somebody really good at it. I hope this business doesn't get commoditized, basically.
Yeah, same. Totally agree. That human element is something I feel like we all kind of learned that we need, especially with the pandemic. Like if you learn anything, it's like, yeah, we need that. You can do a lot of things digitally, but there's something to be said about like just face-to-face interaction with people.
Well, what have you? Well, I'm just curious, Joy. You guys were probably doing messaging on the site versus the SMS. What was the software you mentioned?
We use Leadferno. So what's cool about it is it does text, like it's, different than live chat. Live chat is like you have to stay on your screen.
Yep.
And the cool thing that I liked about Leadferno is that the person who sent me the message doesn't have to stay on our site. They can leave and go. And then when I reply to them, it sends them a text message. And every time I reply to them, it's sending them a text message. I can access the full conversation through their app, through my like browser or the app on my phone. So it's really handy that way. And I can like assign it to other people. Like they're sometimes talking to me. They're sometimes talking to my assistant, Colleen, like depending on who it is and what they need, we'll just transfer it back and forth. So it just uses SMS versus a lot of technology doesn't go through SMS.
Got it. I love it.
If you want more on that, actually, our last webinar that we did in the LocalU webinar series was the founder and owner of Leadferno, Aaron Wyke. I think he's been on your podcast, maybe, or he's going to be on your podcast, Tommy. I think I introduced you guys.
I'm on
yeah.
I'm on 340, so
yeah. So it should be coming up. So I've got a time for a few more questions. So just last call to get your questions in. If you have any for Tommy, I've got a few lined up here. Just before I do that, I do want to mention we will be doing more of these webinars. We're going to be sending out a feedback survey. And I really want to encourage people to fill that out. We want to figure out like what topics you want to hear about, the frequency, that kind of thing. And if you're really up for more learning, we are doing an in-person event in October, on October 13th, up near me. I've been wanting to do one of these in like the Greater Toronto area, literally for like a decade. So LocalU Advanced Toronto. It's actually not in Toronto. It's in Blue Mountain, which is about 2 hours from Toronto, but we're calling it Toronto. We're going to be talking a lot there about like local SEO marketing. I'm doing a whole presentation on link building, talking about like if link building still matters or not. I'm going to be sharing some things that might surprise people, but it's going to be an awesome event. So if you are wanting an excuse for a weekend away, we purposely put it in a destination that will make a good work/personal trip combination. Blue Mountains is really beautiful. So make sure you check that out. And I will go back here to the last final question so that we can end on time. Best tip for hiring good people. And then as a sub thing, this is from Chris Borink. How do you get people to show up to interviews?
So it's very interesting. Number one is use your workforce as your recruiters, and I give them $1,500 when they recruit somebody. But I teach a whole basically session on this where you take a selfie of the person you want to recruit. Okay. So I'm at a restaurant. I'm with the Amazon guy. I could be at a gas station. I could be at a friend's house, like a mutual friend. And I'm just going to take a picture with them and say, hey, what's your cell phone? And let me just send you a picture. And then I'll say, listen, I want to tell you a little bit about the career we offer here. Here's how you can learn, workfor1.com. But the last guy that I hired is making six figures. He bought a house. He's a great father. He's a great husband. And what do you want out of your life? Because all I'd ask you to do is give this an opportunity. And then I'll text them a day to schedule a ride along. Now, they'll never do it the first day. So you got to follow up with a question mark for the next 3 days. They got to know that you actually want them. They got to know that you're going to go above and beyond. They're going to see that as part of your culture. So I would say be very, very, we use personality profiling. We do all kinds of stuff, but we only hire 1 out of 100 people that apply to us. But now there's a lot of people applying. But I think when you realize what a great person will do for the morale, I always say this, you got to love Mondays. If you hate Mondays, you might want to look for a new career. So be a talent scout. Don't go to the unemployment line to find people. But if I went to your, if I go to your Glassdoor and your Indeed right now and search your company, not yours, Joy, this I want to know what people are saying, because I don't go to Google to find a job. I'm looking at what people are saying that are employees. So make sure you're on the places that people are searching for you. But also the best people that are already working have jobs. I mean, the best people in the workforce already have jobs. They're not on the unemployment line unless they just moved here. So another great idea for you is them.
Awesome. Yeah. So tips for hiring people, you heard them. He listed a bunch off. That's great advice there, Tommy. I'm gonna make a note here. This guy said he probably recruits all the time. So you said literally you're like at you're at a bar, you're at a restaurant, and you're thinking like, would this person be a good employee at A1? Is that correct? And if so, like what traits does that person need to have for you to actually take that selfie?
We couldn't find anybody good in Denver. I went there for 1 day and hired 2 people, like at one restaurant.
Okay.
When I'm at Discount Tire, those are the best. They work with their hands. So I look for people that have a great smile. They make eye contact. They got a good handshake. They're attentive to my needs. They just seem like they're having a good time. And they come up to you and they're like, yeah, I just had a newborn and trying to be the best dad I could be. And since COVID, this has been the best paying job I could find. And it's just when you know it, you know it. You're like, wow, this is a good person. And you can tell a lot more from the ride along. They got to show up sober. That we do drug tests, we do the background check. But for the most part, they're at hospitality. The best people, you can find them at a hotel. You can find them at a restaurant. You can find them at a bowling alley. Like they're just good people because they work with every different ethnicity. They work with different ages and where people came up in life. So they're just very, very good at reading people and kind of rolling with the punches. Those are the best people that I found to hire the personality, train the skill versus hire the person that's trained and try to teach them the personality. That doesn't really
Hmm.
work out well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. That's amazing. Well, I know we're at time, and I want to be mindful of your time here, Tommy. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all these awesome tips with everyone. Tune in for news on our next webinar series. We'll be releasing that shortly. And thanks for all for listening.
Thanks, Joy. Have a great vacation.
Thanks.